Yo, YouTube, what's good, y'all? I'm finally back, with a cold and with a guest, Major, and another guest that I did not invite, Calcifer. I don't even know if I'm gonna edit this out, to be honest. So this is my life right now. With that being said, I'm just gonna let them go around the camera, and I'm gonna go ahead and talk here. Hey guys. And talk about some theory. And what I wanted to talk about is learning new characters, right? I also wanted to talk about what it's like getting the rank of, like, trying to get to the rank of like Tekken God, which is something I was able to do with King. So because of that, I also wanted to talk about that too, and talk about more theory in that, maybe in another video. But I wanted to focus on learning new characters, right? And one thing I wanted to kind of provide some insight for, to say, is like how do you go about learning a new character, right? Let's say you are a player who's only used, maybe, I don't know, Jin, right? You use Jin, maybe you use another character that isn't really stance heavy, right? In this case, maybe you're a King player, right? And I'm gonna lower my volume just to be safe. Maybe you're a King player as well, and maybe you're not someone who is familiar with stance like attacks, right? So in general, how do you go from a character like this to what I was able to do, to go to a character like that who is extremely stance heavy? Now, we don't got no Lei Wulong in Tekken 8, right? But and again, excuse my voice, I'm really trying to get over this cold here. We don't have a Lei Wulong in Tekken 8, but we have Horong, who is something else right now. He's from the communities that I have seen, he's pretty, like, not that crazy on paper. The only reason why Horong can still keep up such pressure like that is because of the fact that he's Horong, right? But like, how do we go from like a King type of architect to a Horong type architect, right? And we're gonna kind of go ahead and kind of go through the moves list here. I'm not gonna go in, this is not a Horong guide per se. So if you're looking for a Horong guide, maybe look for a character enthusiast or character specialist who actually have made Horong for a long time. I just want to talk about how you can just pick up this character and actually be like, oh wait, this guy is actually really fun. And you also start to realize that when you play with Horong, he's very vulnerable, very vulnerable in a lot of situations here. But yeah, so talking about going from King to be able to be just do some crazy stuff like this, like, oh, okay, hold on, my computer's still trying to warm up. All right, something like that, right? We can go ahead and do some crazy stuff. So basically, y'all get the drift, right? Y'all get the drift, right? So how do you do that? How do you, like, wait, but I don't even know what's the first thing about coming to this character here. What I like to do, this is what I like to do, right? I start off, I skip the main techniques, right? What I do is the first thing I look at is what is his unique heat factors, right? Because every character has a unique heat activation when they are in heat. So in this case, can use kicks during powered up right flamingo, right? So that tells me, okay, so during right flamingo, I have access to some special stuff. You want to really try to utilize your heat. That's a factor in the game. Like, I would never recommend someone just to go in there and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn this character and then have no idea what their heat is, because that's like 50% of the game that you're not using, right? So then after I look at the heat and I'm like, okay, obviously you don't really know what right flamingo is, right? Maybe you don't know what that is by visual cue, and maybe you don't even know how to get into right flamingo, right? Obviously, if it's right flamingo, then it's the right leg, but like, how do you do that, right? Is it this, right? No. So in that case, don't worry about that specific part of it, right? We don't know for a fact that in order to get to right flamingo, right, that's how we get that. And again, I'm still learning. Let's see. I think it's yeah, that's what it is. So in this case, it's talking about this right here. If I can get to it in neutral. Yeah, there he goes. And yeah, this character is very complicated, to say the least. So it takes a lot to actually get used to where he goes and stuff like that. But in general, right? So after we realize what that is, okay, that's the unique heat factor. Then I like to go into his normal moves. And I go into every single one and I do exactly which every single one does, right? So home surgery. Oh, that's that move, right? Left right combo. Okay, that's what that does. Oh, I could also shift to left or right flamingo, right? And then that's when I start realizing, oh, I wonder what can I do in that stance, right? That's a stance transition, right? So start to mess what you can do. Just press buttons, right? This is why you're in practice mode. Just press buttons and just see what your character does. Okay, so standing 4 does this mid option, right? But he's minus 13. Okay, so that's punishable. What happens if I go into right flamingo and I press X, right? I get that. Now, what if I start adding directional inputs to it, right? What if I add left flamingo into forward 3? Oh, I get that. I've seen that move a lot, right? And you might have seen a lot of these moves too, that you're like, oh, okay, so that's what happens when you're in that stance, right? So when your opponent is in left flamingo and holds forward 3, you can go ahead and you get that move, right? So then you kind of understand the flow of these stances, right? So do it some more. What happens if I hold up 3? Nothing really happens there, right? Okay. What if I hold down forward 3? Oh, I get his power crush, right? What if I hold back 3? Oh, I get his other power crush. Because I did realize that he's very vulnerable in this stance, right? So then go ahead and then you do it again to the right flamingo, right? What happens if I do that? Oh, you get this, right? Y'all get my drift, right? Right? So with that being said, you go ahead and I go through every moves list. Every single one. And just see what it does. Right flamingo fate. Oh, I'm pressing 3. See? Oh, okay. You can go into the right flamingo in stance, right? In neutral, I should say. Yeah, it's bad. I'm sorry, guys. Right? So, if you kind of go down to that moves list, just go through it, see what happens, and see which one does what. And I would say, unfortunately, I would say for a fact that this is something that every time you're trying to learn a new character, go into practice mode, go down to the moves list once, and then also just see what other better players do with that character that you're trying to learn, right? So in the meanwhile, this is only maybe like my 5th day, honestly, starting today, and I don't even know if I'm gonna be playing like that today because of how I'm feeling. This is only like my 5th day playing Harong, right? So in overtime, I just get used to the moves. I see what this does, and then eventually you'll start to get into the frames, right? Oh, okay, so what's your punishes, right? And then down the road, when you go down to that moves list, you'll realize, oh, this is a punish, right? And then as well, I realized because Harong doesn't have any great standing punishes, I realized that you want to go into stance from that goes into. You want to put pressure that goes into stance, basically. So if you block something, you want to jab into your stance, right? So you don't want to do that. So you want to jab into stance, right? And you can start your mix-ups, right? So then you start to get familiar with the character here too. And this goes for anything too. So for an example, if we were to do quick select, and for, let's say, another character who's very technical, not in the stance part, but maybe in execution part, right? Kazuya. Kazuya is a very, very complicated character in the sense where he's not super technical and like stance heavy Harong wise like he is, but the execution needed for Kazuya to get decent punishes, not even great punishes, decent punishes. Movement is a big thing with Kazuya. You gotta have good movement with Kazuya. You know, you got to know how to sidestep electric. You got to know how to do that. If you want a good punish, you got to know how to wave dash. So you see what I'm saying? So, and it's like, how do you do that, right? How do I go and pick up this character? You start moving this character like this, right? You see this movement, and you're like, ooh, okay, right? You're like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. To when eventually, and then again, I haven't wave dashed in a while because I've been busy. You can do this. And that's a super basic combo. I wasn't even trying to do anything like that anyways, but so what you would do with Kazuya, how do you do this with Kazuya, right? So again, this is super generic, high level. Again, like I said, go down to the moves list. What's unique with Kazuya that can go through in his heat? So in this case, he uses his devil powers, right? So moves that end with this, he's gonna get his devil, his laser. That's gonna get his laser. And then as well, in heat, he has this stomp that does a lot to, like, really sets up a lot of interesting stuff. I don't use that a lot there. And then yeah, like I said, go down to the moves list and just see what each one does. See what each one does. And keep doing this every time you choose a character for the day, whether you're starting up for the first time. Go through this moves list at least once. I don't even care if it's just 3 minutes in practice mode. Just go through it so you can start memorizing certain things, like, oh yeah, that's right, Kazuya has this, you know what I'm saying? So if you block a move that's kind of far away from you, Kazuya doesn't have King's 4-2-1 for long range punishes, right? So then you start to wonder, what do I use with that? And eventually throughout the labbing, when you go down to that moves list, you realize you have moves like this, right? And then even some moves, I wouldn't really recommend this. Sometimes that reaches far. Or in this case, you could take frames. So like, okay, I can't punish that from afar, right? But what can I do with Kazuya if a move is going to go ahead and let's stop King from approaching me? What can I do to get something from here in this range for pressure, right? If you go through down that moves list, you start to realize, oh, what are these? What's this? Moves during Wind God Fizz. And then for pressure, you know, you have stuff like that for a mid check. The range isn't really that crazy. But then there's also as well, you have while standing 3, 4-4, 3-2. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a matter of just getting familiar with your characters. And I think that's the big emphasis I want to put with just trying to start a new character, right? It's just emphasis on being familiar with it. You're gonna play really corny, really weird, really whack in the beginning. Where's Horong at? I don't see him. But over time, things are gonna start to get a little bit more comfortable for you, right? So let's see here, what else did I wanted to follow up with that? Yeah, so I think just to summarize here, go through the moves list, go through each and every single move repeatedly, and then eventually, once you get familiar with your neutral and you understand how to approach, and then, you know, you can kind of, oh, okay. Then you start to look at the heat properties and understand, oh, okay, maybe if I can go into this here, I can go ahead and mix it up with a 4-3, or 4-2, excuse me. Mix up with mids. And he can do this. He's +4. And then see, so, and these are things that I'm familiar with now. So when I go into like the actual like player matches, I haven't taken Horong and ranked yet. I can start really implementing this stuff here. So I mean, and then yeah, that I don't know how to do yet. His just frame skyrocket. Let me see. I'm gonna try it 3 times and then I'm gonna end the video here. Nope. There it goes. Yeah. So I'm still trying to practice that combo there. Yeah, I don't know what to really do at that part there. I think, yeah, you have to go into like his right foot stance to... Yeah, it's weird. But I still need a lot of practice, as you can see here. But I wanted to show you that it's possible to kind of go from character to character to character to character. And there's a lot of fundamental stuff that you can take with you during all those character switches there. So, I mean, so for an example here, as far as, in no way this is like a flex whatsoever. We've been able to take our fundamentals and learn characters like Devil Jin, Dragunov, Horong, Jin, Kazuya, King. I've even used Lee. I'm able to use Lee now. Paul, Victor, and Reina. I would say those are the characters I have been able to really, really mess with, and you actually start to get a better sense of how you can even punish the cast, right? And you're gonna actually naturally gonna be able to start fighting better against these characters with your main. So if you're a Jin main and you've been having problems with Kazuya, or you've been having problems with Devil Jin, right? Play him for a little bit, and then eventually go back to Jin, and the next time you fight a Devil Jin, you're gonna be like, oh wow, this is a lot easier. And it's crazy because Harong now, for me, is actually not that scary. Like, his mix-ups are still pretty crazy, but after a while, if you look here, someone wants to do this, all highs, that ends in a high, you know? And then on hit, he's only -2, but then you understand that when you play Harong, and then you're like, oh wait, from this right, when I see his right foot forward, he has this option, he has that option, he has his ultimate jab, right, which comes out at 10 frames and it's +2 on hit. That's stuff you learn. It's the small stuff like that, that knowing, oh, right foot forward means he has access to a jab that's +2 on hit leading up to setups. You know? Some secrets start to get unveiled for y'all. So other than that, I hope this was a little bit insightful, and you know, I'd probably go in depth with Harong maybe later. I just can't say I know a lot with Harong. I just can't say I do. Like, combos isn't enough. Combos is not enough with me. Like, it's just not enough to be like, oh yeah, I know how to play a Harong. Nah. So props to Harong players. Like, and I'm actually saying that. I used to give so much hate to Harong players, but there's good Harong players that use them honorably, and I gotta give props to that. So other than that, take care, guys. I'll see y'all next time.